What do you mean the Afrikaners are struggling in the USA? Getting paid $2,000 a month.
If you're wondering what happened to the Afrikaners who were rescued from South African white genocide from South Africa by Donald Trump and taken to America, well, I will tell you, they've come out and said that there's been a failure of policy because they basically are barely scraping by. That is their description, that they're barely scraping by. So they were rescued from South Africa, thinking, and most of them obviously never been to America, and thinking that they were going to turn up to a place that is paved in gold, only to find out that America has literally got millions of people who live in the streets. And many people in America, at least 10 million people, actually live in their cars. And these Afrikaners claimed asylum in the United States of America, and now they're saying that there's been a total failure of the rescue because they're not getting by, they're barely scraping by. This is what they say.
Last year in May, when these white South African immigrants were being welcomed in the US, they were being treated like a special group of people. They were being welcomed, holding American flags, and I thought that these people are gonna be living a luxurious life in America. They're gonna be treated like kings. They're gonna be treated different from how other immigrants are treated in the USA. Now, only after 7 months, the same group of people who claimed to be escaping persecution from South Africa are crying because life is coming very hard for them in the USA. People who used it to employ other people in South Africa are now being employed just to be able to survive in the USA. I want us to get into this story of these South African immigrants. As you're watching, please tell me what you think about this story, and also remember to like the video. Let's get into it.
Welcome. Welcome to the United States of America. It is such an honor for us to receive you here today. This is the land of the free. It makes me so happy to see you with our flag in your hands, and that flag symbolizes liberty for so many of us. Many of us, our families have had a journey not that different from the journey that you are embarking on today. Any adjustment in life, any change takes a while to get used to. But I want you all to know that you are really welcome here, and that we respect what you have had to deal with these last few years. We respect the long tradition of your people and what you have accomplished over the years. And I am sure that you will be successful. It's, as you know, a lot of you, I think, are farmers, right? When you have quality seeds, you can put them in foreign soil and they will blossom, they will bloom. And we are excited to welcome you here to our country, where we think you will bloom, and we will hopefully allow you to have fulfilling lives for your children, and then we will bloom and we will benefit alongside you.
Yes, I spoke to 10 South African refugees who told me that they came to the U.S. hoping for a better life, a better situation, just as other refugees. And the government contracts with 7 refugee resettlement agencies that are paid hundreds of millions of dollars per year to provide safe, sanitary, and affordable housing. And unfortunately, what I heard from these Afrikaner refugees is that they're spending weeks in motels in unsafe areas. They're being offered housing that is full of mold, apartments that are full of mold in expensive areas. So each refugee is allotted $2,000, and all of that has been going to rent. So they're really left with nothing. And these agencies are supposed to help them apply to jobs, obtain temporary benefits such as SNAP and Medicaid, and basically other people from the community, like neighbors, are having to step in because they just, in some cases, can't even get a hold of their resettlement agencies.
And Madeline, what jumps out to me about what you're saying is we have this almost split screen between what you're describing their life is like now and how they looked in May of 2025 when they were being welcomed here. They were holding American flags. They had smiles on their faces. When you asked refugee groups about these issues with the resettlement process, what are they telling you? How common is this?
Well, from what I could tell, I mean, there is an entire network of people as they come. I mean, people I spoke to came as soon as 2 weeks ago. And what they do is, they have a network through social media groups and WhatsApp, and they're all realizing oh no, I'm stuck in this hotel. I only have a certain amount of food. They don't have transportation. They don't have the right clothing. I talked to three refugees who are in Detroit. It's very cold there. They do not have coats. So they're realizing that they really feel alone. So I think with that original group, now we're sort of seeing, I think so far, over 1,600 Afrikaner refugees have come, and now we're seeing sort of the cracks in the system here.
Okay, I got a good one. Can we talk about the Afrikaners that Trump brought here at the beginning of last year? They've been here for 7 months now. We have 3 of those families planted right here in Detroit. Do you know Trump still got them living in the hotel in the hood with mold growing all in the rooms? They get an allowance of $2,000, yet they're paying rent at the hotels. Now, y'all know it's cold as shit here in Detroit. I mean, it's cold. Cold. I ain't been outside in 3 days. Fuckers come from a tropical weather system where it's sunny and warm all the time. This snow shit, they not used to this shit. How about they got them wearing summer clothes? Trump brought them here on a promise that I will bring you here and give you all the benefits to get you started on your American dream. They're still waiting.
The conditions some of these refugees say they are experiencing, because the administration made it seem as if they were being prioritized. They are a special group.
So now you over here stuck in America. Well, I'm going to tell you like they told us. You better pull yourself up from your bootstraps, because no one is coming to rescue you. That was your fault for believing a man like Trump was going to bring you here and give you everything that we ain't got.
Listen, it's one thing to come here with dignity. I have no problem people moving here with dignity, but when you're gonna lie about your country and stir up hate and go along with this terrible thing people are saying about South Africa just because you don't like it there, because your white privilege ended with apartheid and you still had privileges but you took it for granted. Do you know what happened to those people? They are living in motels right now with cockroaches, mosquitoes, and mold, and they're complaining because all they got was $2,000 when they started. They were promised that someone would help them find a job, find housing. Nothing's happening. One guy, the best one I heard, oh my gosh, I was dying when I heard this, is they interviewed an Afrikaner, and I need to look this up to see if it's true, but this is the story, is they interviewed an Afrikaner, and he said he had to wash the car of an African-American man here. So I hope that's true. Oh my gosh, I hope that's true. That would be so delicious. You know why I'm celebrating this karma is because there's people out there that are actually suffering, that are fleeing their countries to just make a life for their families and provide and make sure their kids have a future. And they have to wait forever. And sometimes it goes 10 years before that happens, which is why they end up here undocumented. Not that they're doing anything wrong and killing people and stuff. They're just undocumented because the system failed them. And it's just too much of money and resources. Anyways, these people got the red carpet rolled out for them based on a lie. And now look what's happening. God. That is real God right there, not the nationalists that they are. The real God is acting right now and saying, oh, you want to lie? Yeah, this is the life you're going to have. So, shame. I wish them all the luck, but I guess they can't go back to South Africa if they claim refuge from it, right? I hope not. Gosh, I hope. Oh, it'd be so nice.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk use those people as political pawns. They were a piece on their chessboard. And then those people's racism blinded them to the fact that they were being used as political pawns. And their white supremacy led them to believe that they were entitled to the American dream. Now that they're here, has anybody told them what white Americans, white racist Americans in this country, what white supremacists like to tell people who are not American citizens? Has anybody told them that? You need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And if you can't work here, then maybe you need to go back to your own country. I do believe that in order to come here, they had to forfeit their citizenship from their home country. Somebody correct me or confirm that for me. Yeah. Welcome to America.
They struggling. They are struggling. So the Afrikaners, Elon Musk had Trump bring to the United States because they were being prosecuted, are stating they are having serious issues surviving in the United States. And the only person that can be blamed for this struggle is Trump himself. Trump cut a bunch of funding that Biden set up for refugee programs. And it wasn't just the money that Trump cut, it's also the staff that he cut at refugee offices and other federal offices because of the Doge department. Elon Musk did this to his own peoples. So these refugees are saying they're only making $2,000 a month, which is barely enough to handle their rent. They're saying the houses they're in are roach infested. They're saying there's a lack of access to refugee support, again, because of Doge cutting all of that support. And they feel very isolated from these programs, and the language barrier is bothering them. So I'm not sure what more can be said about this struggle and why cutting refugee programs and the people physically working in those refugee programs was a bad idea, because even the people he is trying to help, the better immigrants, as they would say in the Trump administration, are now struggling to be here. Y'all have a good day.
Well, it turns out the descendants of colonizers in South Africa who fled South Africa alleging persecution for being white, who came to the United States with the alleged welcome of the current president, have been left to fend for themselves. Y'all, it's bad. It's bad. This is from the Free Press. And I quote, languishing in cockroach-infested apartments, walking miles to the grocery store for food, and eating just one meal a day to save money. This is life in America for some newly arrived Afrikaner refugees from South Africa. Again, this article is on the Free Press. Apparently, this administration used the Afrikaner plight, championed by that musky man, to bring over these Afrikaners from South Africa to resettle here, essentially be used as a PR photo op. And then they were literally abandoned. These folks were talking about not having any blankets or towels for themselves, being put in motels, and given $2,000 a month. Most of that they spent on rent. Mind you, they came over here with very big promises, allegedly that they would be taken care of. There will be all sorts of benefits for them through this refugee program. Now to turn around mere months later, to find themselves living in squalor. No, I am not laughing at the plight that has befallen them, but it is kind of funny that you allege what has been combated by the South African government, that you are suffering as a white person who is experiencing persecution for being white. And then you come to this country where they're supposed to be trying to make white great again. You pose for the pictures, you do the photo ops, and then the administration literally treats you like garbage. Somebody cue up the Leopard song. Someone cue up the Leopard song right now.
Well, hello, boys and girls. Do y'all remember all these smiling faces that arrived here about a year ago?
Farmers are being killed. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people and to escape from that violence and come here.
these folks who've just come in today have been.
Well, I remember them. They got off of that plane smiling like they had just landed in Disney World. They thought they was about to come over here and live a life of luxury, zero labor, and all the racism their little hearts can stomach. But they are learning out the hard way that the grass is not always greener on the other side, and racism is expensive than a motherfucker. They can barely pay rent. They don't have the right clothing. They can't afford to buy the right clothing because they're barely affording rent. They barely have food. And most of them are still living out of hotels, which we know is expensive as a motherfucker. They thought they was about to come over here and be the brand new Elon Musk arriving from South Africa. Yet another fatality of those that have blindly put their faith in Trump, racism, and hatred. Happy Black History Month.
You may recall last year we reported on the Trump administration's decision to limit the number of refugees entering the United States. That number was set at 7,500, a significant cut from the Biden era. In addition, the administration is prioritizing white South Africans for admission, a group it says faces persecution at home, something the South African government disputes. Well, now an investigation from the Free Press shows many of those white South Africans, also known as Afrikaners, are barely scraping by because of what they say are failures in U.S. government systems. Madeline Rowley is an investigative reporter for the Free Press, and she joins us now from Virginia to talk about this. And we should note the Free Press and CBS News share a parent company in Paramount Skydance. Madeline, good morning. Talk to us about the conditions some of these refugees say they are experiencing, because the administration made it seem as if they were being prioritized. They are a special group.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on. Yes, I spoke to 10 South African refugees who told me that, they came to the U.S. hoping for a better life, a better situation, just as other refugees. And the government contracts with 7 refugee resettlement agencies that are paid hundreds of millions of dollars per year to provide safe, sanitary, and affordable housing. And unfortunately, what I heard from these Afrikaner refugees is that they're spending weeks in motels in unsafe areas. They're being offered housing that is full of mold, apartments that are full of mold in expensive areas. So each refugee is allotted $2,000, and all of that has been going to rent. So they're really left with nothing. And these agencies are supposed to help them apply to jobs, obtain temporary benefits such as SNAP and Medicaid, and basically other people from the community, like neighbors, are having to step in because they just, in some cases, can't even get a hold of their resettlement agencies.
And Madeline, what jumps out to me about what you're saying is we have this almost split screen between what you're describing their life is like now and how they looked in May of 2025 when they were being welcomed here. They were holding American flags. They had smiles on their faces. When you asked refugee groups about these issues with the resettlement process, what are they telling you? How common is this?
Well, from what I could tell, there's an entire network of people as they come. People I spoke to came as soon as 2 weeks ago. And what they do is, they have a network through social media groups and WhatsApp, and they're all realizing, oh no, I'm stuck in this hotel. I only have a certain amount of food. They don't have transportation. They don't have the right clothing. I talked to 3 refugees who are in Detroit. It's very cold there. They do not have coats. So they're realizing that they really feel.
South Africaners, refugees in America, they are facing a tremendous challenges in America, where they have to pay for the motels and the hotels. They have to pay for transportation, and everything in America is very expensive. And now they are accusing the government of America by ignoring them, maladministration. They feel like they are not welcomed in America. And those people, Afrikaners, they must know that crime in South Africa doesn't know the color of the skin. We as the black people, we are also the victims of crime. every day our people are losing their lives. We are burying our loved ones in large number as black people. So why America doesn't protect all the people of South Africa, but particularly for a certain group of people? They call themselves Afrikaners. Now, if you can look at Africa, South Africa, the black people, they occupy a small piece of land, while the whites own more than 70% of the land. But we just kept quiet. We just made peace with them. Secondly, the village that I'm staying, it named after their ancestor. In fact, our villages, they name after their ancestors. Now I live in a place that it named after a white person, but I just made peace with it. I live in Skinot, Mantausuk, Moilek, Bit van what. There's no village that is named after a black person, but we just made peace with it. Just look at this video. Those people now in America, America shows them flames. Now they think about Africa, South Africa, motherland, a land of peace. They are suffering. They're crying like babies.
So according to the informations, these white South Africans, they were taken in the rich settlement area where the rent is very expensive. So when they receive this 2,000, these 2,000 go all of it for rent, and they are left without money for food. Only the neighbors, they intervene to help them, to give them some food or even some clothes. So right now they are beggars in USA, and they are talking on how they can come back to South Africa. They want to return to South Africa. They want to return to motherland. A lot of white South Africans want to return back home, but they don't know how.
An investigation from the Free Press shows many of those white South Africans, also known as Afrikaners, are barely scraping by because of what they say are failures in U.S. government systems.
Yo, I would say go back to Africa, but I know they won't take them. Oh no, what a tragedy. If only someone predicted that this would have happened.
Welcome to America, guys. None of us are having a good time. If you missed this story last year, which of course you missed it, there were 1 million news stories of crazy things happening. But basically, Trump not only limited the amount of refugees that could come to America, but he wanted them to be from South Africa because he wanted them to be white. Why? I don't know. Why does he do anything? He's racist. This group of white South Africans are called Afrikaners. They're mostly descendant of Dutch colonists from the 17th century. Afrikaners are also responsible for something called apartheid. So in the 1940s, a bunch of Afrikaners got in charge of the government and they did segregation. All the white people separated from all the black people to lift themselves up and to the detriment of the black community. Apartheid is over in South Africa, but it does make me think that maybe these Afrikaners wanted to come to America to see if they could start it up again. Trump was like, yes, come to America. We will take care of you. And he did not take care of them. When has he taken care of anyone but himself? I don't know. Maybe never. You can read this article in the Free Press, but I'm going to summarize it for you. Here's what's happening. So these people came from South Africa and they were given a stipend for temporary housing, which most of the time is motels. They were given $2,000 a month. Then they were supposed to move into real housing, but the housing that they're shown is gross. They're like, that's full of mold and it's in an area that feels really dangerous. I don't want to live there. So they go back to these motels and they're using their entire $2,000 a month stipend just for their housing. So they can't afford groceries, a car, coats. Some of them say they are literally freezing because they're in cold areas of the United States, because they have to walk to the grocery store because they can't afford a car, and then they get to the grocery store and can barely afford anything because, like I said, they don't have any money left over. They have been truly abandoned by the government. They say they can't even get the people on the phone from this institution that is supposed to be helping them, multi-million-dollar institution, by the way, just left out in the cold, literally. I feel so bad for them. They are just as abandoned as most of Trump's children. I am not shocked at all that this is what's happening. This is how Trump treats everyone. It's like walking up to a tiger cage, putting your hand in the cage and being like, oh my God, I can't believe the tiger bit my fingers off. Why did he even bring them here if he was just going to completely abandon them? The conspiracy side of me thinks that maybe he just brought a whole bunch of new white families over here so he could look at their kids and see if he wanted to abduct them to the new version of Epstein Island.
First of all, let's clear something out. A lot of people online are talking about these South African white immigrants or Afrikaners like they appeared from nowhere. No, that is not how it is. Their history in South Africa goes back centuries. In 1652, the Dutch settlers arrived at the Cape under the Dutch East India Company. Over time, Dutch, German, and French Protestants formed what is now known as Afrikaner group or Afrikaner people. They are mostly referred to as Boer, which means farmer. These were settlers in the colonial system, not refugees running for survival in the modern sense. As British took over parts of South Africa in the 1800s, many of these settlers moved inland during what was known as the Great Trek. They formed their own republics. Eventually, after wars with British, South Africa became a union under British influence. Then in 1948, the National Party, dominated by Afrikaners, introduced apartheid. Now, apartheid wasn't just people didn't like each other. It was law. Black South Africans couldn't vote. They were forcibly removed from the land. They were placed into separate townships. Movement was controlled through passed laws. Education was separated. Housing was separated. Everything was separated. That system lasted officially until early 1990s, when the negotiations led by Nelson Mandela and others dismantled it, and South Africa became the multiracial democracy in the 1994. In May last year, we have watched many clips of these South African white immigrants claiming persecution in South Africa. We have seen them in America smiling with American flags, being welcomed as a special group, and then months later saying they are barely scraping by. And this will make you understand why emotions are high online. Now, let's be fair. Today's Afrikaners are not personally responsible for apartheid in 1948. Many of them were born after apartheid ended, and South Africa today has serious problems. And crimes affect black South Africans, white South Africans, Indian South Africans, everybody in South Africa. It's not a simple one group targeted situation. The South African government has repeatedly denied the white genocide that was being said in the media. And the government was saying that crimes in South Africa are widespread and not racially targeted in the way that the media was portraying it. So when some Afrikaners say that they feel unsafe or economically uncertain, that might be their lived experience. But they become controversial when that experience is presented as the racial persecution while ignoring the broader national context. Now, fast forward to America. According to the clips that we watched in the video, some of those white immigrants from South Africa were brought to the US under the refugee program, reportedly receiving about $2,000 a month. And here is where reality hits hard. $2,000 in many American cities is barely rent, especially in their case where they were placed in a hotel. Now add food, transportation, childcare. That money will disappear very fast, and that is what we are seeing in the news today. Their families are stuck in hotels, no winter coat, struggling with agencies, feeling isolated, with no support. Now here's a part that is uncomfortable. A lot of Americans, especially black Americans, have been telling them how the American system is broken. They've been telling them how housing in America is unaffordable, that wages don't match rent, that social programs are underfunded. So when people online, these black Americans, are telling these white South African immigrants to pull themselves by their own bootstraps, they're using a language that has been historically used against poor working class Americans. There is irony there. Some of them are angry, but underneath it, there is a bigger conversation. America is not paved in gold as many people out of America think. It has millions of people struggling already. According to the recent data, millions of Americans live to paycheck every single day. Housing security is a serious issue in America. So when a group like this is brought in America with many promises, whether those promises were realistic or political, and then they face the same structural problems as everyone else, it becomes a wake-up call for all immigrants or all other people who want to go to America. Another thing to correct, not all Afrikaners in South Africa are wealthy landowners as many people think. Yes, historically many Afrikaners own the large part of land in South Africa due to the colonial and apartheid systems. And even today, land ownership issue remains a big problem in South Africa. But it doesn't mean that every Afrikaner in South Africa is living a luxury life. Now, what is happening to these Afrikaners living in America, these immigrants living in America? What I can say is that their expectation didn't meet the reality. What they were expecting is not what is on the ground. Some of their families believed that America would provide immediate opportunities, stability, maybe even preference. But America is expensive, very expensive. America requires adaptation. America has a bureaucratic system that don't always function smoothly. But here is a bigger takeaway. This situation is not really about Afrikaners versus Americans. It is about how immigration is used politically. It is about promises that were made during campaigns. It is about what happens when policy decisions meet economic reality. No one benefits from people living in mold-filled apartments. Nobody benefiting from families lacking winter coats. At the same time, Americans who have been struggling for many years are asking, why is this group being prioritized? Why is the system still failing everyone? There is the tension, and history makes it emotional, while economics make it real. What I can end up saying is that the grass is not always greener on the other side. And sometimes when people cross oceans believing that they are escaping a problem, they discover that they have stepped into another version of it. That is an uncomfortable truth. That was it for today. Make sure you tell me down there in the comment section what you think about these white Afrikaners who are now struggling in the United States of America. If you have enjoyed watching the video, please drop your comment down in the comment section and like the video. Share it to your friends who would be interested in hearing the story of this South African immigrant. Mr. TA signing off.